John McMullen and Jody McDonald with our start of our second 100 shows. You think we'll make it a 200, McMullen?
Yes, I think we're going to make it to 200. I know you're going to make it to 200. I don't know if I'm going to make it.
Yeah, I don't know. I got more faith in you have in me, but that's okay. Yes, we had our 100th show yesterday, so this would be Birds 365 101. Sounds like a class. Yeah. McDonald and McMullen, your professors at hand for the next 2 hours here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. And it is a game day show, Johnny Mac. Come on, let's get pumped. Let's get psyched.
Well,
Eagles, there is big something game today.
There is something to be excited about, and that is it's the end of preseason. So we don't have to talk anymore about these useless preseason games. Now, from my perspective, the only problem is obviously this year it's in MetLife Stadium instead of Lincoln Financial Field. So instead of
suck it up. You had the first two games at home. You only got one road game you got to go on for the preseason, and you're whining?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be whining if it meant anything. If it meant anything, I wouldn't be whining. But you got to trudge all the way up there to talk about a bunch of guys who are going to be cut. Some of them might be brought back to a lot of them are going to be brought back to the practice squad, so they're going to be around. But I always thought this was, and usually it's week 4. Now it's week 3, obviously, in the preseason. But I was, people talk about this industry and they talk about the safety issues and, how the age of rage, so to speak. And they're always, getting on their high horse and talking about this, talking about that. I think the worst part of this industry is the last week of the preseason when they trot out a bunch of guys who they know aren't going to make the team and they might get hurt. They treat them like crash test dummies, essentially, because they don't want to get the important players hurt. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. That's always bothered me. That's always. You know what this is? It's pet peeve week for me.
Well, and you know what? That's a legit pet peeve. You're whining about going up to New Jersey Turnpike for the Jets.
That's very legit.
Seeing as you're getting paid to do it, I'm actually paying to do it. The plan is, as of right now, for me to go to tonight's Jets-Eagles game.
You're still going?
Oh, if my... Now talk about whining. Here comes the Jody McDonald whine. Shortly after today's show, some 2 hours from now, I will have to prep, gargle, do everything else. I've got a dentist appointment at 11 o'clock, and I'm having major dental work done. So depending on what good... drugs they give me for pain purposes, I'm having teeth removed. It's actually oral surgery. Will determine whether I am actually going to the game or not. I've got the tickets. My daughter's planning on going. She said, you got to make a call by 2 o'clock, Dad. If not, I can rustle up a friend. So she's going to go. Somebody's going to use the tickets tonight. Is it going to be me? To be determined yet. I don't know. But if I do go, I'll be drinking Diet Coke.
Yeah, you should be tapping out right now. Just say, yeah, thanks.
No. See, I want to see. This is the difference between you and me. You got to do it like granularly every single day and be on top of everything. I try and do it close to what you do, but I know I can't. But I'm going to just relax and have fun. You're going to actually have to go and take notes and write a column, whatever. I could actually go and have some cocktails if I wanted to. And that may be the eventual result because my daughter is driving. I'm not driving. But I can just relax and take it easy, enjoy watching backup third team, fourth guys who are going to be on the street tomorrow beat the snot out of each other in the second half and decide who wins, the Jets or the Eagles.
And that's it. I get it. Maybe it is fun from that perspective. And obviously you're a Jets fan, so it means a little bit more just to see people in that uniform in MetLife Stadium. And I get that part of it. But man, if I had any issues whatsoever, I mean, if I had an appointment at, what'd you say, 11 o'clock?
Yeah, 11 o'clock.
And you're trying to make a decision by 2. Now that's way too close. I'd be like, you know what? Maybe next time.
No, I want to go. I haven't been to a game yet. You've already been to 2. Now, you worked them, but I haven't been to a game. And by the way, last year, remember, COVID season last year, how many games did Jody McDonald attend? That would be a goose egg, not a zip, zero, zilch. You went to games all last year. I haven't been to a football game in close to 2 years.
But
Damn
is it a
straight
game?
I want to go.
Is it a game, though?
Yes, it's a game. They're both going to have on uniforms. They're going to hit each other. They're going to light up the scoreboard. It is a game.
All right. I'm not going to. I don't want to take your joy away from you, but I can't gather any joy for myself to see this game. Now, I wouldn't. Let me ask you this: if it were a Lincoln Financial Field year instead of a MetLife Stadium year, wouldn't you prefer the half-hour ride than the hour and a half ride?
Sure, but it's not. So I have to adjust. If it was a Lincoln Financial Field game, I wouldn't have tickets because I don't have Eagle tickets. I have Jet tickets.
You could get tickets. Trust me.
Yeah,
you could go on StubHub and get in for.
I could. I was going to say I could probably get in for less than I'm paying for my Jet tickets because that's part of a package at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. No question
so yes,
about it.
I could definitely go, and a half an hour ride would be better than an hour and a half ride. But again, don't tell my daughter. She's driving. Most of you already knows, but I'm not even driving, Johnny Mac. I have very little problems with the New Jersey Turnpike as a passenger. When you actually have to drive, it's a little bit more unnerving.
See, but I have to be in control. I don't like being a passenger. I don't like having no control over that situation.
I prefer to drive myself too, but knowing it's the Jersey Turnpike, knowing that I'm going to be a little wonky because I'm going to be on some powerful drugs, yeah, I'm good with it. And I'm good with the Jets and the Eagles tonight. I want to watch this game. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to see Jalen. Oh, shoot, Jalen Hurts isn't going to play. You don't think Jalen Hurts is going to play tonight? Not one snap. He's not going to get out.
He's going to play one snap. I really don't. I don't agree with it. And look, maybe they changed their thinking because they didn't get the snaps in that they planned to get in the second game against New England. So maybe that changes their thinking. But the way Nick Sirianni was talking, joint practices are so important, blah, blah, blah. We consider them games. It sounds like he doesn't want them to play. He's not going to have them play. So I hope I'm pleasantly surprised. I hope we get to see him for a series or two because I think, A, he needs it, number one. Number two, I think it would be exciting for the fans to see the actual starting quarterback. Joe Flacco, for some reason, people dislike him so. And Nick Mullins, we've seen, your boy Nick Mullins. You've been right on him from the get-go. I think part of it, where we differ, I think part of it has to do with the surgery. I just don't think he's there 100%. But I mean, if you think about how ugly it's been in the first 2 weeks, it's going to be pretty ugly. You think about the Jets' backup quarterbacks. I mean, Josh Johnson, who's been on, I think, 75 teams now through 67 different leagues, and James Morgan. There's going to be some ugly football out there.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, the Jets will put Zach Wilson at risk. I'm predicting right now he's going to play some. I don't think it's going to be a lot.
Plays, because that would excite me because I think he's got tremendous potential. Now, I don't know if I'd roll him out there behind that offensive line, but they got to do it anyway at some point. Obviously, Becton's not going to play because he got the concussion. I don't know where they are with Vera Tucker. I assume he's not playing. So, but then again, it's Fletcher Cox is not going to be out there. Javon Hargrave's not going to be out there. Josh Sweat's not going to be out there. Brandon Graham's not going to be out there. So maybe it's fine.
Right. Let me ask you a question. And I honestly don't know the answer. That's why I'm asking the question. And I hope it would be the same for both teams. I'm thinking that the Jets may put their quarterback out there for their fans. The Jets played their first 2 season games on the road. Eagles played their first 2 season games at home. Jets played their first 2 season games on the road. This is the first chance for quote-unquote Jet fans to see Zach Wilson live in their stadium slinging the ball around for the New York Jets. Now, again, the stadium will, if it's lucky, it'll be a third filled. I've been to too many of these Jets preseason games. They just don't come. Nobody comes. They eat the tickets, you move on, you get ready for the first regular season game. So 35% capacity, somewhere thereabouts, and they better be there for the first snap because, Wilson's going to play 2 series max, and he's going to get the hell out of there. The Eagles don't have to worry about that because they've already played 2 preseason games. Do you think where the game is played in any way, shape, or form affected the decision as to who was going to be the starting quarterback for the game?
From the Jets' perspective, I see what you're saying. Maybe they'll throw Zach Wilson out there for a couple series. From the Eagles' perspective, no. I mean, they weren't going to. I don't think they were going to play him. That was the plan anyway. No matter where the game was. So, I think the only thing that shifts the Eagles' thinking is the illness last week, and if that affected them, and they adjust to that because they plan to get Jalen Hurts 2 series against the Patriots. They weren't able to do that. So that's the only sliver of hope, if you want to call it hope, for him playing is they adjust their plan because their plan didn't come to fruition last week.
All right. This should be an interesting answer. The Eagles are going to have X amount of snaps. So we're talking about percentage here. Who knows how many snaps they have. Oh, by the way, the Eagles have had really few snaps in 2 games. It was specifically the Patriot game. They took so few. It was ridiculous. And they really didn't have all that many against Pittsburgh either because the 1 touchdown they scored on 1 play. Boom, pass out to the flat, off to the races, give the ball back to Pittsburgh. So I would go out on a limb and say the Eagles have had less offensive snaps than any team in football in the preseason. I don't know that. I didn't look it up, but I feel pretty confident.
Good guess. I haven't paid attention. You also have to factor in they didn't convert a 3rd down for 88 minutes. You have to factor that in. So they weren't extending the drives they did have.
No.
So I would be shocked if anybody's got fewer offensive plays.
I would suggest the possibly 0-17 Houston Texans have taken more offensive snaps this preseason than the Eagles. So a lot of guys haven't gotten work because the offense hasn't been out there on the field. How much work does Andre Dillard get tonight?
Oh, he gets plenty of work because he's lost the starting job, even though Nick Sirianni won't say it. So backup's got to play. So he's going to play a lot. And, there's 2 reasons for that. You also want to showcase him for the rest of the league and hope to maybe spin him off or something at this stage of the game. So you're trying to serve 2 masters there, trying to get somebody interested in Andre Dillard and say, oh, he's, he looks pretty athletic and all that kind of stuff. We need an offensive tackle. Maybe it works. Usually it works. You've already seen the number of preseason trades. Greg Little, I think, was drafted the same year. Miami picked him up. They're a desperate offensive line team. Miami's always looking for offensive linemen. There's so many teams that need offensive linemen. I could see Matt Pryor being showcased as well to try to get him something for him because I don't think the Eagles want to just release him. But the Eagles are really deep on the offensive line. And you know what complicates this? And I wrote about this on Sports Illustrated this morning, Joey. Landon Dickerson, because you have to factor in, okay, when is Landon Dickerson going to be ready? When is he going to be ready? You don't want to put him on that NFI list to start the season if he's going to be ready before week 7. All I know is the Eagles said it's not going to be a redshirt year for Landon Dickerson. They said he's going to be back at some point. He got injured in December. ACL is usually 9-month injury. It was later in December. So you do the math, that's late September, 9 months. That's way before the 7th game. So you would think you would want to carry him on the original 53. Then you could put him on short-term injured reserve and get a roster spot back that way. So they have to factor that in. And if they have to keep Dickerson, I know they want to keep Brett Toth. People don't think about him, but he's played well. He showed versatility. So they're either going to go 11, 12 offensive linemen if they have to keep people like Dillard and Pryor and they can't trade them, or they got to move them. So that's one of the more interesting, probably, narratives of this game, if you can call that interesting.
And oh, by the way, and you can just dismiss this if we want, and I hope that I'm woefully wrong about this, but Landon Dickerson's a rookie. How many practices has he had so far? That would be
0.
none. Zippity doodah. So even when he's going to come back, how many weeks do you have to have him practice before? And I know he's not going to start. If the Eagles are healthy along the offensive line, then all he is a backup guy, so you can take your chances there. But what happens if one of their, it was shocking? Would it be shocking if Brooks got hurt or if Lane got hurt or if
Yeah.
Sayamalo, who's been injured this preseason, got hurt? Of course not. So not only do you have to have him ready to just get into an NFL game, but maybe start and play an entire NFL game. How do you do that with a guy who hasn't had a rep of practice all preseason long?
Well, you can't. I mean, he's got to ramp up once he gets back, once he's cleared. He's got to practice for a couple weeks, you would think, at least, before they would feel comfortable putting him in there. You're right, though. Right now, they want him just as an interior backup because they've tried late in training camp. Nate Herbig, played really well at guard last year when he was forced into action. They tried to move him to center at the end of this training camp. It has not worked out well, to say the least. So all of a sudden, you start to say to yourself, Luke Jariga didn't work out. He got waived injured. Do you want to move Isaac Sayamalo to play center? The Eagles think he can play center, but Jeff Stoutland doesn't like moving parts. So if Jason Kelce goes down, the best case scenario for them now, I mean, Jason Kelce plays through everything. So you're not going to have to worry about anything. That guy hyperextended his elbow. I thought he was out for the season. He didn't miss one play. He actually missed one play. It was the play before halftime. He went into the locker room. You thought, okay, he's done for the season. He's back out there for the second half. His arm couldn't move. He's still out there playing. So I don't think you have to worry about it. B, you do want Landon Dickerson out there as a potential backup for all three interior positions because he's got so much talent. But I said the same thing with Devontae Smith. Any young player, you're going to have hiccups. So people think they're going to hit the ground and they're going to be superstars. No, you're going to have hiccups.
There's a growing phase that they've got to go through, and at least Devontae Smith has had some practices this year and actually played in the game, actually caught a couple of passes. Landon Dickerson is showing off his fancy clothes on the sideline.
Yeah, his tractor clothes.
Hey, yeah, more power to him. He's a Southerner through and through. He's got to get
and
used to playing.
If you're 6'6", 330, you can wear whatever you want. Nobody's going to say anything.
And oh, by the way, it has been hot. But Landon, guess what? If we do need you in December, it's going to be a little cold. You're going to have to cover up just a little bit. All right, Johnny Mac, one other point I want to get to before we hit our first break. And we're hoping to get Barrett Brooks here in the first hour. We don't know. Haven't been able to lock him in. But Barrett may be joining us here in hour number one. Howie Roseman, we talk about him all the time, although Howie hadn't done anything other than cut the roster down from 90 to 85 and then 85 to 80. Big week this week coming up where they got to take the roster all the way down to 83. And this is usually the time of the year that Howie Roseman strikes and finds an Eagle player that they consider a core player. Either contract is up or an extra year to go and we get an extension done and it's team friendly. He hadn't done that once this offseason. There's not been one player that the Eagles have extended who they had on the roster previously that they had gotten either via trade or via the draft or signed off the scrap heap. No extensions yet from Howie Roseman. And they've got some very legitimate candidates in Dallas Goedert and Mailata and Josh Sweat. Why hasn't Howie gotten an extension done this offseason?
Well, number one, they have issues from a cap standpoint. So that's number one. We all know they're not going to have a lot of space until after this season. The second part is I think if you look at the players individually, particularly Josh Sweat, Jordan Mailata, doesn't make a lot of sense for them to sign extensions because they haven't done enough in the past to where they're going to get the top of the line sort of money. And they both have upsides, significant upsides that if they play, 15, 16, even 17 games, they're going to cash in a big way. And their agents are telling them that. So, you focus in on Dallas Goedert. That's what we've been talking about for months. ESPN evidently did a story on it, so now it's real to people, even though this has been going on for literally weeks and weeks and weeks, and Dallas Goedert himself confirmed it. They're trying to work out an extension. That one makes the most sense because he's got some proven things in his background. People know he's a good player. There's still upside. And then you look at the market and say, okay, the Patriots kind of set it with the 2 tight ends they signed. You have George Kittle at the top. So you have sort of the framework where you go right in between there, right in between the Hunter Henrys and Johnny Smith and then George Kittle. You're not going to get as much money as George Kittle. And that's where the Eagles know it's going to land. That makes sense for Dallas Goedert as well because it's a very good player, but he's not George Kittle. And that's the easiest one to get done. So if one is going to get done, it's probably going to be Dallas Goedert.
All right, let me ask it to you this way, and then we'll get our first break in. Slotting in as per comp salaries to other players at their positions, and even the cap situation to the Eagles in. And you're right, they've got cap issue. They don't have a lot of flexibility when Carson Wentz dead cap money comes off the cap next year. They'll have a lot more flexibility. Just ranking them as players, how would you rank those 3 guys? Now, they're 3 different positions. I get that, but I was going to give you the top 10 list from the NFL this week. They're going to reveal their top 10 players. I've been watching it on Sunday nights on the NFL Network, and it's different players from different positions, and it's just fun to see how they fall in line in ranking. So that's what I'm kind of asking you to do here. Rank those 3 guys for what they're going to do in their next 5 years of their career. Mailata, Sweat, and Goedert.
Well, I think right now Goedert would be ranked number 1 of that group, but it's interesting because I think the other 2 have higher ceilings as players. So I think ultimately they could be better. You said 5 years down the line, they could be better 2 or 3 years down the line. So that's sort of like what you're weighing. I think if I'm the agent of Jordan Mailata, if I'm the agent of Josh Sweat, okay, you haven't done enough yet, but you have this amazing ability to get to this level. That's why I tell them to bet on themselves. If you're the agent for Dallas Goedert, I'm going to say this is a great deal. If you can get in between Henry and Smith and George Kittle at the top end, take it. And that's long-term security. Very good player. So right now it's Goedert 1, Sweat 2, Mailata 3. If you're talking upside, it's probably Mailata 1, Sweat 2, Goedert 3.
Right. What I'm talking is projection over the next 5 years. Not today, not how you would just rank them as per their accomplishments in their career so far. What kind of production you think you're going to get out of them over the next 5 years was how I specifically asked the question.
Yeah, well, then I would say if you're going to ask me, I would lean towards Mailata, but that's what makes this stuff so difficult. You're all when you're talking about contract extension, not just one factor comes into it. Your past comes into it, your current plays into it, and the future plays into it, and hopefully you evaluate it correctly. And that's where Mailata and Sweat haven't proven as much as Goedert at this point, so they don't have as much leverage, but they do have the leverage of understanding what they are as potential players, and if they trust themselves and if they bet on themselves, they might cash in. You also factor in the position as well. Left tackle, if you're a top-tier left tackle, I mean, you are cashing in. If you're a top-tier edge rusher, you are cashing in. And tight end, it's a little bit, that's one of those positions where it's a little bit of a depressed market, probably unfairly so, but that's just the way it is. The league doesn't value the position the same way. So that factors in well. And then Josh Sweat, you have to talk about the injury issue as well, because he's got the long-term knee problems, he said, from day one, even though he says it's not an issue now. He told me day one he got here. I still remember he's never trashing the knee brace, he said. I'm always wearing this knee brace because there's always going to be a concern. Now, obviously, he wants to play that down because he's in a contract year, but the Eagles know that better than anybody. They know that's a concern. So all of these things factor it in. I think Mailata has the potential to cash in the biggest of all if he plays well this season.
My ranking would be Mailata 1, Sweat 2, Goddard 3, because you are talking about that ceiling, and this is assuming Howie does a decent job in the negotiation. None of the three of them are going to stay here on a hometown discount because they just love the Eagles and love the city of Philadelphia. They're going to get paid. But they
might take a little bit of a hometown discount. It's always a little bit. Remember, if you didn't take any kind of hometown discount, nobody would ever play for anybody except, the Florida teams and the Texas teams. I mean, if they're looking just for every single cent they can get, the taxes alone would take you to Florida and Texas. So teams always get a little bit of a hometown discount. For somebody like Jordan, because I know how much he respects Jeff Stoutland, and I know how much he respects the Eagles for giving him the opportunity and then developing him. I think they will get a little bit of a hometown discount when it comes to Jordan Mailata.
Give you one more name to put on that list. Tell me if you think the Eagles will or should be talking to him. How about Singleton? Who you, me, and who was on with us yesterday? The show's just one into the other. Bo Wolf. All kind of agreed that he could be the Eagles' single-season all-time leading tackler with adding the extra game. I think it's 129 tackles. If he gets that this year, most ever by an Eagle in any one season. He gets that, he's going to get paid next year, too. Would you try and get a deal done with him if you're Howard Roseman?
We talk about upside. I don't think his upside is near those three other players. So again, you're always willing to do business if you find a team-friendly deal. Alex is always sort of trying to overcome these hurdles. We always talk about the pedigree and where he came from and what he's gone through to make it to the NFL. But I would say tackles, nobody looks at it. What little spoiler, we're going to have Ryan Paganetti on the show Monday morning. He was Doug Peterson's game management coach, and he was an analytics guy. Nobody looks at total tackles and says, "Oh, I'm going to pay that guy." That's just not the way the NFL is anymore. And you could tackle a guy 7-8 yards down the field, be very active. It's not helping your team. Now, I think Alex is a very good player. This team doesn't value linebackers. We know that, no matter what they say. So it's probably an easier deal to get done. So, he's not going to be in their stratosphere, those three other players. But if it makes sense, yeah, the Eagles have about $18 million in cap room. And if they think Alex is going to be a long-term solution at linebacker. See, the problem is, do they think he's going to be a long-term solution at linebacker? I think they want to get better at linebacker. Problem is, they want to get better, but they never make the right decisions when it comes to bringing in players. They don't want to, spend a top 10 pick like Devin White and get somebody who's lights out. They don't want to do that because they don't value the position. But they don't make the right decisions when they look for those sort of diamonds in the rough. So they've had some issues.
Drafted Davion Taylor and hope that he becomes Devin White. Yeah, that's poking and hoping. And when it doesn't happen, nobody should be surprised. All right, we are your Mac and Mac guys, Jody McDonald, John McMullen. Again, my apologies. If I'm not on the top of my game, it's because I haven't had any coffee this morning because I got to go to the dentist in 2 hours from now. So McMullen's going to have to prop me up a little over the course of the show. You guys can, if you want to hit us on the stream. We're hoping to hear from Barrett Brooks. We quasi-booked Barrett for the show.
Barrett's sleeping, I think.
He probably is sleeping as we speak. But if he wakes up, we may put him up here on the show. We definitely have Michael K. from NJ.com in hour number 2. Coming right back here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.